You know, when I was a kid, it was April Fool's one of those days, and I called my dad. I was like, "Hey, Dad, there's a spider on your head." We were all just really glad that it wasn't Admiral Trench. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xerath Prevails. Today I want to talk about 5 characters that everyone should be working on. We've been putting out this video every month or so, and I probably won't do it every month, who knows, but I do think that there's a certain wisdom to shouting out certain characters that aren't on the radar of everyone. We're not talking about galactic legends, or the characters that are just so obvious. Work on Jedi Cal. I mean, all these characters should be worked on, but these other ones, it's like, well, at the very least, kind of be thinking about them and realize that maybe if you have a little spare time, you can work on this stuff. So, it's a good list. It'll be revolving. It might be repetitive month to month. We'll see, but it's not ever going to have the exact same group of characters for sure. So, huge shout out to my patrons. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your support. I truly couldn't do this without you guys. And folks, if you want to support this channel for free, all you've got to do is hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, comment, mount the algorithm, guys. It's time to make the trek to 20,001. It's going to be crazy. It won't. It'll be the exact same. So, let's jump into the game. Whoa, madness. Here's the game is madness. Alright guys, so we're on I have 3 accounts. We're on my middle account right now. Apparently, I resized the screen so it's not covering all the stuff behind it. That's pretty classic Xerath. So, I did put these Galactic Legends here just to mock the people who only watch the video without listening to the words for some reason. So, like, work on Jedi Master Luke. Work on your Galactic Legends, guys. That's the wisdom Xerath has to offer today, folks. Work on your fat Galactic Legends. Work on your skinny ones. Work on your old ones. It's gonna be a hoot. That's why we play the game, right? It's to work on Galactic Legends. It feels good, right? Because we're all like, that was satisfying to work on another stupid Galactic Legend grind. Now, let's talk about Iden Versio and why she's awesome, folks. She's amazing. She's Relic 8 on this account, even though we're only at 10 million, because she's good on so many different fronts right now. I've been saying for a while that Iden is probably the most sought after and important character currently in the game, just because of how many uses she has. The most obvious one, I guess, to a lot of people, is just how good she is in squads, and she, destroys a lot of things in squads. She goes first if you have her Omicron. I think she goes first even if you don't. Her Omicron does something different, but she, she's a character that helps you kill Galactic Legends sometimes, or at least clean up Galactic Legends, depending on how you're using her. That's great. That wouldn't get her on this list, however. I would say the 2 most relevant and interesting things about Iden Versio right now is, number 1, she is the pilot to a ship that is countering the best ship in the game, which is the Leviathan. She pilots the TIE Defender for some reason, and it's awesome, man. It's really good. And the higher relics you go with her, the better the ship is going to do. It's going to evade more, probably, and it's going to hit harder and survive longer and just get you wins. That's awesome. The other thing that makes her, you could probably get by with like Relic 7 on her, even Relic 5, that's what she was for a while. The other thing that's awesome about her is she is amazing in the raid right now. She just destroys things in the raid because that's what she does. She hunts her own kind, and she does a terrifyingly good job with it. And she just pairs up with just random rebels. She's like, hey, you want to go hunt some Imperials? And they're like, heck yes. And then, they do, and it's kind of disturbing, but she's awesome, man. She's a character that I do think that you're going to benefit from putting a lot of gear on. And then the awesome thing is, once you're done with the raid, once the raid is done and dusted, it's over with, you still have an awesome character, and you don't regret those relics because she does a lot of really cool stuff otherwise. Next up is Pluton. I've talked about him a couple times here lately, guys, and I'm working on a video about the Jedi, the situation with the Jedi, and one of the things that you have to realize is Pluton seems like kind of a joke at first. He's like the best of the loser Jedi, and honestly, when you realize what he does in squads, it's like, alright, he does some okay stuff. He's a tank. He dispels on basic. He gives his whole team turn meter. He gives more to Jedi for some reason, and you know, he does all that stuff in squads. What I'm reusing him for right now is, as you'll see in the video about the Jedi, is you were running out of good Jedi because they're being pulled in all these different directions and placed in all these different teams. And even though there's a ton of Jedi, it's a huge faction. We just don't have enough good Jedi, and Plo Koon ends up filling this really interesting role with Starkiller, where he's a tank, so he's going to pre-taunt under that team. He's going to give them turn meter when there's a lull, because every once in a while, Mara Jade's like, I forgot about how to debuff things, and Plo Koon's like, not to worry, young lady, have some turn meter, and he just hands out turn meter. It's crazy. He's like, come to my van. We have turn meter. It's kind of sketch, actually, now that I'm thinking of it. But, you know, he's like masked. He's like, come to my van. Children, I mean, Mara Jade. It's crazy. But then he actually follows through and gives him turn meter instead of you know, other things. So, anyways, he dispels, he taunts, he gives turn meter. Good stuff. Good replacement character. The other thing that is making him way better, though, and why I have him at Relic 8 on this account, is his fleet stuff. Because with the Marauder, the new ship, the Bad Batch pilot, and you put him with Negotiator, you're countering that Executor triple attacker fleet at a really high, really clean rate, and you just destroy people. But you have to have him faster than your opponent's ships, and a lot of times, if you've ever seen someone with an IG-88 at Relic 9, it's not because they love their guild and are just putting Relic 9 on him for platoons or something. It's because they want to annoy their enemies and make it so that their Plo Koon is not fast enough. If you get a Relic 8 Plo Koon, it makes his ship faster than any IG-88 ship. And so that's enough, guys. Get him to Relic 8. I know it's a ton, but you have a multifaceted use for a character that requires no Omicrons, and that's not too bad, in my opinion. Omicrons, or Kyrotech, I should point out as well. He requires no Kyrotech. Now, we've got BenSolo here, and he's one of those he's one of those characters that's very maligned for a lot of people. They're like, oh, he doesn't do much. People just counter him with Starkiller, and that's it. He just sits there stunned. You know what happens when Starkiller can't stun him? Well, probably nothing, because you probably modded him like he's garbage and put relics on him like he just doesn't deserve nice things. The thing about BenSolo is, when I first put out a video on him, it was non-obvious. I was like, hey guys, here's a modding video. Here's how you should mod BenSolo. And I was like, just make him survivable and leave him alone, because you don't want him to die that much. And it was pretty short-sighted. It was wrong. And that happens. What you have to realize, folks, is he hits really hard. Like, really hard. And if someone is too afraid to use Starkiller, or they don't know how to use Starkiller, or even if they do and they just get a little bit of bad RNG, the second he gets a hit in, they're gonna feel it forever. In fact, they might not feel it because you might have just killed them with one fell swoop. It's amazing how much damage he does, folks, because he does special damage on all of his attacks. He's able to, and then he does armor shred as well. He's able to do a crazy amount of damage. This is only a Relic 6 BenSolo. I'm still working on him. I gotta pause to work on worthless raid characters for a while on this account. But one thing that I will point out, I thought it was worthwhile to put all 3 Omicrons on him. Now, if you don't have Rey, then I guess I don't see the big fuss. Don't worry about working on him. But if you have Rey, he's going to be such a big help. And if you use Rey on offense, which I know isn't the most common thing ever, then Ben is also so amazing to do a lot of really cool stuff. He does a lot of damage. Remember that for a couple months only now, he's going to be able to kill Sith Eternal Emperor with impunity because he does and this is only in GAC of course, because he's able to put healing immunity on Sith Eternal for 4 turns. Combine that with Jedi Training Rey, doing it for 2 turns, and it just never leaves Sith Eternal until he dies. He's like, oh, I failed to heal, and I'm dead now. And it's not that sad, because he's kind of a menace, to be honest. Like a phantom in reality. All 3 Omicrons, very worthwhile, folks, in my opinion. Obviously, it's GAC, so if you don't care about GAC, then I don't really care. Starkiller does not have the crazy high win rate that everyone seems to think. They're like, oh, I just get killed by Sith or by Starkiller all the time with my Rey. Then maybe get a good Rey team and stop losing to Starkiller. And Ben is a huge part of it. I don't know what to tell you guys. He is a fantastic character. And Relic 8 is not a terrible choice for him. Now, we have Drogan here, and yes, he's a requirement for Leia, obviously. That's neat, right? That's cool. They're just choosing all the meta characters, I guess, but he's kind of the Leia lifter in a way. Like he's like Boosh for Jabba. He's the damage dealer. He's kind of the fulcrum through which all the damage flows a little bit, at least. He does some cool stuff, for sure. The thing that people don't realize is he's also... so yeah, he goes well with Leia, and you wouldn't put, well, some of you might, but no one is afraid of a Relic 5 Boosh, right? You're like, oh, Relic, okay, everyone's got Relic 5 Boosh, who cares, you know? Or whatever the minimum is to get her. Relic 8 is a little scary though. You're like, oh my gosh, what's she gonna do to me? What terrible things might she perpetrate upon myself? And the idea is that you want to have a little bit of fear struck into your opponent, and that's what, Drogan does that. He's like, yeah, I might just one-shot you if I feel like it. If I don't feel like it, I still might do that, because that's just who I am, and I'll just one-shot you. He's also amazing for 2 other reasons, however. He does great with Leia. Cool, so does everyone do well with the era-signed Galactic Legend. That's wonderful. You know, you don't see Kylo Ren unmasked signing up for treats because he's tanking. He's like, yeah, I go well with Supreme Leader Kylo. People are like, shut up, dude. That's your job. Like, you want an award? Like, go ask someone else for an award. Go ask your boss. But Captain Drogan also does some cool stuff with, hey, you guessed it, the Endor raid. That's pretty cool. Obviously, Relic 8 is what you need. He does a lot of damage. He's actually good in the Sith raid, or the Endor raid, as opposed to like Jedi Luke, who's like, hey, I actually did fly some of these speeders against actual Imperials, and I have experience doing this, and I'm in the movie doing this, and I'm an iconic character, but I kind of just suck at the Endor raid anyways. How do you guys feel about that? People are like, well, that's actually kind of annoying. People are like, you know what would be really cool is if CG invented a new character and he was really good at the Endor raid instead. And Luke's like, yeah, that's fair. So, that's basically what happened. Now, the other thing that I want to point out, though, folks, is it's not over yet because of the Endor raid. Cool. He goes well with Leia. Cool. Last thing about him is he is a rebel fighter, and that means that he goes with a lot of good teams out there. Like right now, Saw is a much better team than people give it credit for. Yes, you have to put good characters with him, just like your Rey team that always loses to Starkiller should probably have good characters on it rather than just your leftover crap that your opponent is consistently schooling you on. You also need good characters on Saw, and what I guess the biggest thing is, I probably don't want to put Drogan with Saw, just like in GAC or whatever. Maybe that'll be a thing at some point, but the biggest thing that I see is Saw destroying the special mission in territory battles. Yes, I know you need a Relic 7 SAW to do that, but if you're at a point in your game where you're working on that, and I've seen a lot of guilds kind of transition to that point of like, hey, we want more GET2 so we can buy more Chirotech, which is a pretty reasonable thing. Captain Drogan is the guy to help you do that, because he's awesome. He fits on that team like a glove. It's almost like CG planned it for that one mission. I don't know if they did. They plan a lot more than we think, but I do think that they definitely I don't know. He works well there. There we go. I'll spit it out eventually. He works well there. He only needs Relic 7 for that, I suppose, but keep that in mind, folks. He's multifaceted as well. Now, finally, we do have Trench. I think that's 5. I probably have like one other or two. Oh yeah, I have a couple more if we have time. But Trench is one that, so the really common thing, people are like, bench Trench because it rhymes. They're like, hey, I'm like Dr. Seuss. I'm like, yeah, Dr. Seuss would be so proud of you. And the thing is, Trench has a few things going for him that people don't really understand. First off, he's not as good right now as all the other Conquest characters. Let's just get that out. He, like with his Omicrons, he does pretty well. He makes the top 16 of Territory Wars, right? He does some cool stuff, but it costs Omicrons. I don't love that either. I don't love Territory Wars. And then if you want him to be good, then you have to put Watt with him. That's the other thing that people don't like. Oh, if you want him to be good, you just have to use the most important character in the entire game on him, and of course the Eternal Emperor needs him. But the news is, folks, we're getting Darth Bane pretty soon, and Sith Eternal Emperor no longer needs Watt as a babysitter. In fact, a lot of the teams kind of have developed ways to do without Watt for the most part. Now, you can still use Watt in a lot of different places, but at the end of the day, I don't use him very much on any of my accounts. Like, I use him for certain specific places and things. That's fine. That's good. That's how he should be. He's a good plug-and-play character. But Watt is designed to make Trench awesome, and if you're not putting Watt with Trench, then yeah, you're gonna miss a lot about the character. You're gonna miss a lot about him. And here's the thing. You're not gonna need Watt anywhere else because Bane is coming out. Bane is going to help. He's going to help, and he's going to make Trench more gooder, because Trench actually has his kind of lifter, his necessary component to making the team good, freed up. The other component, guys, is, we don't know this yet or not. It could be totally different, but I think there's a distinct possibility that we get a capital ship for Admiral Trench at some point. He's the only admiral that doesn't have one, and it just seems to me that it would be wise to actually be developing this character who is going to suddenly have an entire team that's freed up to be good and at his disposal. And he's not going to kill a lot of Galactic Legends or something, but he has a very relevant team that counters quite a few things in GAC and in Territory Wars. He does cool stuff in Rise of the Empire as well if you have the right relics. He is relevant, he does good stuff, and he might have the new hot capital ship to back him pretty soon. We don't know, but I think that's a distinct possibility, and you should be looking into it. Now, we're going to speed round these last two guys. Captain Rex, great character because he fuels Phoenix. He also fuels a lot of different clone teams. He's got the right tags to be relevant, and he's a requirement character for Leia. He's a raid character, and he's just doing a lot of cool stuff. His Omicron does just kind of like, if you have a couple hours to like read his kit, folks, and then read like Leia's kit and how, you know, he can go with Leia, he can go with clones, he can go with Phoenix. He does all the stuff, and he's just pretty good. Honestly, I know he's not accelerated. Some of you are going to be like, oh, I couldn't possibly farm a character that's not accelerated. I mean, you could. And then you'd have a good character to go with a lot of different squads. He's very flexible. He does a lot of cool stuff. He's not the best in the raid, but, you know, he still does fine. At Relic 7, he's still a relevant part of my endeavors there. Finally, guys, Rogue One. That includes Adrad, that includes all of them. They kill so much stuff. Imperial Remnant, Inquisitors, Tuscans, even with the Kron. They do all the stuff, guys. They're amazing, and you should be working on them. What characters do you think should belong on this list? I would love to hear it. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Zareth can't count to 5. That was 7. Have a good one.